So good afternoon, everyone, right after lunch. And thanks the whole BigML team and Maria especially for handling us, giving me the opportunity to present SlicingDice to you guys and how it integrates with BigML. So gluing together the all-in-one data warehouse with machine learning. Actually, I'm going to start talking, I'm going to divide this in two parts. So what are the main features and capabilities of SlicingDice and how it integrates with BigML for machine learning? And then I'm going to use the SlicingDice's control panel to show you how anyone could predict revenue based on historical sales data without needing to code or wasting a lot of time doing so, and basically using our built-in tools so you don't have to manage your data infrastructure. So what we see in the data and BI market is that despite the investment in BI being something that grows year after year, reaching 70 billion, and it's bound to cross 100 billion in a couple of years, data literacy is not growing as fast. So companies are investing a lot of money, but decision is still mostly gut-based. Actually, Gartner cites that 95% of decisions up to 2020 will be solely based on gut, so no information whatsoever. We see this as a two-part problem and related to data, in where data is growing very fast, and it's going to grow faster and faster from now on. And though we have like 850 million people working in companies, only 1.5 million are data experts. So it's one data expert for almost 600 people, and this does not scale well. And before SlicingDice, to handle this, companies had to integrate a lot of different tools, which takes time, generates no value, and costs a lot of money because you need experts for each of these specialties, and every tool needs to be learned again and again. They don't communicate with each other very well. By using SlicingDice, the idea of SlicingDice is to provide an all-in-one data warehouse. So we built our own database technology from scratch. It's called S1 Search, and we built it for ourselves. We had this huge data need that no other database could address, so we built our own tool. This means SlicingDice came out just as we needed. It's a very simple platform. It's robust enough for big data, and it's very affordable, so anyone can access it. Anyone can have access to analytics. So basically, SlicingDice is divided in four main parts. So the first part is our core data warehouse, which is a SQL and API supporting warehouse. It's fully managed, so there's no tuning or configuration. And it's the only data warehouse in the world that guarantees performance. So we have a 10-second query SLA, which really shows why how we can bring value to companies, because we can guarantee performance, so we can handle data of any sizes without needing to manage anything. So time to value is really quick with SlicingDice. We soon learned that besides having this awesome database technology, we need to insert data, right? So we went to look for partners in this segment, and the established ETL companies gave us the cold shoulder. So we had to build our own ETL process. We have over 150 connectors ready for use. So basically, you can just point and click and insert data from almost any source you need. The third part of SlicingDice would be our BI modules. We have two main BI tools here. So it's some chart and dashboard creation tool where you can create any chart you need and share it very easily, and also embed those dashboards using an iframe code, which takes like almost no time at all, and also can be done by people who know nothing about business intelligence like myself. Last but most importantly here, we partnered with BigML last year, and we integrated their whole dashboard inside SlicingDice. So BigML and SlicingDice are very alike. Over the last few hours, we have seen how BigML is very easy to use, and SlicingDice is also very easy to use. Like you can point and click and create things in a minute, just like BigML. So with all of this integrated, we have a full data pipeline that people who have no coding skills whatsoever could just create whatever they need in a day. Well, we have seen implementations going in like a couple hours. So basically, the differentiation of SlicingDice, as I said, is the guaranteed query speed, which is something new in the market, and the infrastructure is robust and fully managed. So bigger companies can leverage, the time to value and performance. And for smaller and medium companies, we're actually very disruptive, because as we hear again and again from mostly solo developers or medium-sized companies, we give them access to fancy analytics, as they put it, where they had none before. Actually, SlicingDice minimum price is $1. I don't think that's there anywhere. And we have this very unusual pricing model where you can pay a fixed price per column of data, no matter the number of rows. So the idea of SlicingDice is that as your data needs scale, you don't have to actually scale in complexity or costs. And also in manpower, because you don't need to hire 25 other guys to build this. So I wanted to present a live example for you guys, how you can create a database in SlicingDice in like a minute, and then use your data loading module to create a data source, and then create a loading job to load data from this source. This data set will show in your machine learning module inside SlicingDice, and then from there you can do, I actually changed that. From then you can use OptiML to make whatever machine learning prediction you need. And the idea is that we can feed this data back to SlicingDice and leverage our data visualization module to actually show you how your data or sales or whatever you're measuring will behave in the future. So if I can just log into, okay. So after we solved that very fast, so this is SlicingDice's control panel. This is what a client would see when first logging into SlicingDice. As you can see, there's a lot here, but it's also very direct. We have a dashboard with statistics, how your databases are working, query and loading latencies, all this boring infrastructure stuff. Yeah, we will be at South by. You don't need to see that. And some people are when I show this to some people, they are amazed at how boring it is. It's very, very boring. There's nothing to do here, you see. So you can create a new database within SlicingDice. It takes about 6 clicks. Choose whatever name you need, on the fly. And then you can choose what cloud you want to deploy, in our private cloud or public clouds. It's we always deploy on regions have 3 availability zones, so we can ensure backups and redundancy and availability all the time. SlicingDice offers free testing forever, so you can create a test database whenever you need. You can just log in with your name and email and password, create a test database and test it out. You guys can do it right now, actually. And the only thing here is that data dies in a week. It lives for a week in your system. So after this is done, you can go to the really fun part, which is completely ignoring the schema definition. SlicingDice is very flexible in matters of schema. You don't need to worry about building relationship models, or, well, you can build it if you need to or if you want to, but you could just build a single dimension with an n number of columns. And you can create columns on the fly with SlicingDice. There's no downtime. You can auto-create columns via API if you need to insert new data instantly, stream new data. So usually, we just ignore this whole session. And then you can create the whitelist and custom keys to ensure people have access to data, which is a very important part. So custom keys here can, well, IP addresses and domains are pretty straightforward, but custom keys here allow you to really fine-tune what people can see. So you can choose to share columns or choose to create conditions to allow people to see based on rows. So you can let end users perform queries or see charts based on columns and rows, pretty much everything that's in a database, right? And when you click to agree to our TOC, you're done. So that's it. You see that which takes some people a month to build in AWS with a MySQL database. It took me like a minute. Takes you more time to set up the screen than to create this. So from there, you can use our data loading and seek module. Oh, I forgot to mention, everything I'm showing you guys can be done through API. And so as with BigML, if you want to build a whole application on top of us and just use API, never log in the control panel, that's fully possible. But you can also use our data loading and sync module to create data sources and loading jobs to load data. So creating a data source is as boring as creating a database, perhaps even more boring because there's even less stuff to click on. So SlicingDice has, I think, 154 connectors. I'm never sure. It's 150 plus. So it can connect to most established databases, CSV from a different number of sources. We are rolling out an integration with, we have Stripe now, and Google Drive and all its, the whole Google suite. And we are running integration with Segment right now, so it's going to grow very fast in this. So after you choose, whatever place you want to load data from, you just use the correct credentials. Each source has its own credentials, like username and passwords. And then it would just be a matter of confirming here. Let me choose like something that has nothing here, like a CSV HTTP. Okay, I think I can go through this now. Okay, but then it's just, okay, save and continue, and you're done. After this is done, which takes like a minute, you could create a loading job to load data to your database. I'm going to edit one here that I previously created just to go faster. Loading jobs take as much complexity as sources. You can choose it to be a one-time manual job to insert data once, load a full table, or perhaps create an automatic loading job to stream data from any source. Choose a database you just created, and then you're going to see the mapping options, which is how you choose what column from your origin database or table goes in what slice and dice column. So you can see it's very simple. It's very point and clicky. You could map different types of columns. Slice and dice has all analytical data types. So strings and anything with timestamps, any event data or attribute data or geolocation data. Then after you have inserted this, it's where the fun really begins. So with this, first of all, in your machine learning module, your slice and dice database will appear as a data source. So from then on, you can just do what these guys spend the whole morning teaching you to do, right? So choose whatever model you need, like any supervised or unsupervised model. It's exactly the same thing. And the idea is that after you have trained your model and made your predictions, you can feed this data back to Slice and Dice. So then you could use our database modules to create perhaps some visualization or dashboard and show how this will behave in the future. So you'll be able to feed this prediction back into Slice and Dice, and say you have like a sales model here. You could have a chart showing you how sales will be next month. You could even add a filter here to filter to the future. So that's how I think we could predict sales. Also, we could probably use our BI module here to create a pivot table and allow end users to do this by themselves in a sort of sandbox without needing to even log into Slice and Dice's control panel. So that's basically how we would do this. You can see it's very boring, as I promised, because there's next to nothing to show. It's very simple, and that's it.
Thank you very much. Any questions?
Yep.
From the audience? Yes, there is one.
Sure.
Wait, sorry.
this forecast that you generate is based only in your historic sales trend. Is there any way of integrating information not from your customers, but from customers, people that are not your customer, but are related with the business to increase the accuracy? And because when you see the historical, maybe the forecast is quite just seen by the eye. Depending if you only have big customers, it's really easy to catch up when they are going to grow more, because it's like a trend. However, the difficult part is understanding when there's going to be like a boom, like you need to serve a lot, or like a zero at some time without orders. So the best way to do that is trying to integrate information from people that are maybe not just customers, but are in the industry. Are you able to do that with this? Or?
Sure, if you have access to data. Yes. So say if you do like they were talking about with real estate. So there's this real estate listing site. You can just pull it from that. Okay. So whatever data you have access to, you could add to your database. So the thing about SlicingDice here is that you can add as much data as you need. So you can create as many data sources as you need. Perhaps I went too fast on that. So if you need to add data from 100 sources, different sources, okay, as you can see, there are like 4 or 5 here up. So as this goes in your database, in your data warehouse, it's all there for you to use as you need. So you could just, say you have your CRM data, and then you want to enrich that with, this listing site data. You just add other columns. Just pull that one beside each other. And the really nice thing about this case is that SlicingDice works with both structured and unstructured data, and data columns are independent. So if you need to add event columns beside attribute columns and beside geolocation columns, you can do that. And then you just sort it out when you actually perform queries or create charts. So you can just, ingest a whole lot of data and just use what you need for whatever model you're building.
Okay.
Yep.
But he wants just to, to have access to the business intelligence report, for example.
Sure.
And that even if it's pretty simple,
yeah.
You know what happens when they are not technical, and they can feel overwhelmed. So does SlicingDice provide this kind of different view or users that you can configure for these menus?
Yeah. So you can create roles.
Okay.
And then in these roles, you can define what parts of SlicingDice's control panel these users can see. So, and it's pretty simple too, actually. See? Yeah, so you can find, you can actually find granites a lot. So even like billing paying methods or what statistics they can see, and perhaps they can just create things, not delete things. They can just use the data visualization module to access dashboards, but not edit them.
So we can have here the data science managing them, the financial guy with the billing and such, and then the CEO just checking and tracking on.
Yeah, if you want to really separate in groups, you can do that. And you can also do this through API. So if you need to create a new user, if you need your application to create new users, you can do that through API. And even define, the password which they can log in with and then change and whatnot.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thanks. More questions? Yes.
I have a use case very similar to yours, but it's not sales-centric, it's service-centric.
Sure.
So predicting potential equipment breakdowns from historical data. But most of the clients I deal with are in the ERP space. So most of the data is in things like Microsoft Dynamics, SAP, Oracle financials, whatever. I noticed you had a few accounting and ERP-like applications in there, like NetSuite, for example.
Yeah,
Do you have a Dynamics connector?
probably. Though you know that when people ask for a connector, it disappears, right? Yeah, that's the usual case, but let's check here. Thing about connectors is that they are not a deal breaker for most cases. When people need a specific connector, we just build it. I have to create a new one. So what was the name again?
Something like Microsoft Dynamics.
Dynamics. Click. Microsoft
Yeah.
Dynamics, yeah.
Okay, well that's great because
Yeah, didn't disappear this time.
there's 2 or 3 of them
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So pipelining nav data, for example, into BigML to do the predictive analysis for the service breakdown potential,
Sure.
and then pipeline it back into your app.
Yeah, so
It's a
predictive
perfectly
maintenance, right?
valid use case.
Yeah, so predictive maintenance.
Yeah.
Yeah, without the IoT uses, it's basically the same. You need like triggers to perform some action. So as we have an API support, you could just connect both your IoT platform's API and your Microsoft Dynamics data, and store it all in a single dimension or as you need in SlicingDice.
Sure.
So that's the first step to integrate everything. SlicingDice can actually work very well with streaming. So you can stream this all the time. And you can have real-time visualizations, even before you have machine learning.
Yeah, that was going to be my next question about IoT devices and streaming those feeds as often as possible.
Yeah, so these dashboards can be updated in real time. They're interactive and whatever you need for this. And then for the BigML part is the same as the other predictions. You're going to have all of this data, almost a data lake per se, if you really have to, if you really can store a lot of it. We have a use case with 150,000 sensors writing per second. So it's 13 billion inserts per day. Wow. And they stream it real time to SlicingDice, visualizing in real time. And then for the BigML parts, is just I know nothing about machine learning, so I just OptiML everything and then evaluate what it shows me. So that's what you could do, or if you're more versed than I am, because I'm not very well versed in it, you could choose your own model. So it's more a case of allowing users to really store a big data, actually big data, a petabyte scale database that you can choose whatever data set you need and push it to BigML and then feed it back.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Any more questions?
Sorry, schema?
Schema on read or schema on write? So if you ingest the data, is it ETL what you do, or do you just ingest the data as it comes? Because if you do streaming, and my downstream application developers think of a new column to add, could I do this with SlicingDice?
Sure. So the thing is, you can do schema on read when you map, as I did on the data loading job, okay? And you can also schema on write if you use an API to auto-create columns. So flexibility is the word here.